Ba'Shem Yahushai, Shabbat, Shalom to my Hebrew brothers and sisters. Another blessed Shabbat that the Most High has given us opportunity to be alive, to come together and break the bread of life. And of course, He always have a word on our lips for encouragement, for edification, for our nation. Today, we're going to be talking about the book of Esther, crowned destiny. She was crowned for destiny. And we'll edit that once we get into the broadcast, actually after the broadcast has concluded. Crowned destiny. She was crowned for destiny. And we know that the book of Esther signifies how the Most High delivered the children of Israel from the hands of their enemies again. Again. Because that's what the whole Bible is about. The Bible is about the Most High delivering His people over and over again from the hands of their enemies. And you will be surprised that, well, not surprised, but the book of Esther, and when it talks about the enemies of Israel, it's talking about Esau. That's what the enemies of the book of Esther is about. And we want to get into it because I won't be before you long today. Because give me 1 second here. Just want to pull out some of the nuggets, the truth of the nuggets of the book of Esther, because we're celebrating and commemorating, of course, the Feast of Purim. It is the Feast of Purim that we are commemorating, the acts of Esther, the acts of Mordecai against Israel, the Lord's people. And the enemies were the Agagites. Okay, everyone may pronounce it different. The Agagites, the Agites, and they were the extension of the lineage of Edom, which are Edomites, Esau. And so again, we see that genocide was trying to take place even during this time. And by the way, the original name of the Hebrew name for Esther is Hadassah. Okay, and we'll edit that as well because we want people to get familiar with the Hebrew text of scriptures as it relates to our nation. We're wanting to get back, of course, to the original text of our nation. So we see here that in the book of Esther, and then there's the very famous quote of when she said, and we're going to do a summary. This is just going to be like a summary, right? An excerpt of the summary of the book of Esther. Commentary is being explained from my observation of the book. Okay, so we want to pull out some truths that she mentioned quite a few times, and she really had, Esther really had the Most High on her mind, and she was brought up into the Jews, Hebrew, heritage and worship of our God, the Most High Yahweh. And and again, I'm just giving my presuppositions right now, just going through the summations of it. And then we're going to get into the spiritual significance of being crowned for destiny. See, that's the most important part about the book of Esther, the Feast of Purim, being crowned for destiny. And even when everyone else feel like you don't deserve it, but the Most High is the one that chose you to do what you're doing, because He's crowned you for destiny. We're going to tie that in there, because Mordecai, was being obedient by the Most High, to even have Esther to go through the pageancy to see if she would be the one that the king would choose for his queen. So we know that she won that pageancy, of course. But one of the things she said, because things got really tough. It got really tough in Persia, in the palace of Shushan. That's what they call it, Shushan. In that palace there, things had got pretty rough for Esther and Mordecai and all the Jews, because now we know in the book of Esther, you have to read it. You can go to the book of Esther and you read it. You had this person called Haman, right? Haman, he was a very evil person, right? From the Agite. Haman, he was the Agagite. That he was of the Agagite, and he was really had this pride where he didn't want to accept the Jews. Even when Mordecai was always at the gate because he wanted to know what was really going on with Queen Esther in there. She had gotten selected and was, well, being purified for the king, and, so she can present herself and be the king's wife. And that was an honorable position to be in. You selected about from all these hundreds of women, how many ever were there. It was a lot of them. And she was selected. But see, look, it's never the external as it should be when you're talking about destiny, but the Lord will use the external. External. Now, he used Esther's beauty, of course, to capture the king's eye so that Queen Esther, Queen Esther, Queen Hadassah, would be able to use her gifts. See, deep down, she had this courage inside of her, even to deal with Haman the Agagite. She had this courage in order to deal with him, because she had to deal with him, right? So she had this courage inside of her that no one really knew. But the Lord put that courage in her, gave her beauty on the outside, and made her appealing to the king because she had to get in that palace. She had to get in there. See, the Lord be working things that we know not of, right? But he uses people and situations and ideas and to work his work of how he's going to bring glory. And it's all about the redemption and the salvation of the whole nation of Israel. And that's what he used her for. He put courage in her. So don't never tell a woman that she's not called, because she has a vision or this strength or this courage or whatever it is that the Most High has put in her to accomplish a certain work. See, the Lord, and then not only did he accomplish a certain work in her, her life was put on the line as well. And she knew that. And she accepted that. And that's why we have this saying where she says, let's go to it. Let's go to what Esther says. It's just one of the phenomenal statements that she made in Esther chapter 4. Let's go to Esther chapter 4 and let's look here at verse 14. Esther chapter 4 at verse 14. Then we're going to see something that Mordecai told her upon her finding out, of course, that the Jews well, it was a plot on the Jews to be exterminated, of course, and Haman was the one that set that up. We're gonna see what Haman tried to do to the Jews, and then we're gonna see what Mordecai told Esther while she was in the palace. But I want to look at Esther chapter 4, and I think we got. Let's see. All right. We're going to start in a place where we could talk about what Mordecai told her first upon her hearing about the genocide of the people. This is a powerful book. This is a powerful book. And you know what? The Most High's name is not even mentioned in this book. However, you got to be a spiritual person to read between the lines and understand the dynamics of the spiritual. The spiritual. So you got to see the power of the Lord working. You got to even see the power of the Lord working to bring down your enemies. It may look like they're getting away, or they get ready to take me out, and oh, what's going on, Lord? Oh, Lord, my enemies all around. They got this big plot. The king say he can't turn it around. What's going to happen to me? But you got to see how the Lord orchestrates through the king's heart. All scriptures of the precept line up where he said the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. He turns it whatsoever way he will. See, yeah, the king couldn't overturn the decree that was against them, but he did something else that allowed the Jews to be saved because the Most High was in it. Now, let's go to, again, Esther chapter 4. Let's look at verse 11, then we're going to read up from there. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. Now, Esther is giving Mordecai, because look, they had already sent the word to her. You go a little further back, you'll see that Mordecai had already sent the word to Esther of what was going to happen to the people. Okay? If you look in verse 8, if you go to Esther chapter 4, verse 8, let's just jump over here real quick. Also, he gave him a copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it to Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplications unto him, and to make requests before him for her people. For her people. Mordecai understood the assignment. He said, for her people. He wanted Esther to make supplication to the king, like cry out and beg, or, for your people, because we have this decree of extermination and genocide that's trying to happen to her. Same thing was going on today, but it's going on in another subliminal way. And that's why we got to watch and pray. We got to be steadfast. We got to be up on it. We got to be in the places we're supposed to be. We got to pray, watch and pray. We got to bring edification, and we got to tell our people to keep the commandment, come out of sin, because they're not going to survive if they're not doing the things they're supposed to, is keeping His commandments, keeping the Most High's commandment. Now the Lord give favor and grace, mercy to whom He want. But ultimately, it's best to just be obedient, right? Now the servant came and told Esther all of these things. Okay? Verse 10 says, and again, Esther spake unto Hadash and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. So we get back to verse 11, what we just read. He just told her in verse 11 what has been told and heard about these people that's trying to exterminate the Jews. And she gave this word to Mordecai in verse 11 again, that it's not her time to go before the king. She haven't been called to go before the king in 30 days. And she can't go before the king because he has to be the one to hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. Let's look at it. Let's look at it again. Verse 11. She said, all the king's servants and the people of the king's province do know. She said, they already know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death. Like, if you go before this king and you ain't called, just one law, just be put to death. Now, you got to kind of think about that, because, he act like he couldn't change the law or the decree, of course, that was against the Jews to be annihilated, because Haman set that up, made a lie and put a lie on Mordecai, and, put a lie on the Jews and made some kind of law decree if they don't bow down, or they praying or doing anything else, they need to be put to death. And so the king, being ignorant, didn't even know that Haman was making up all of these lies. But anyway, let's keep going. Except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter that he may live. Like, the only way you're going to live in front of the king if you go before him is that he called you and he hold out the golden scepter for you to come in his presence. But I have not been called, she say, to come in unto the king these 30 days. Verse 12. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. They told it to him, right? Now look what Mordecai told her. Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther. He told her, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. Basically, don't think just because you in the palace, you good, you got money, you safe, you got servants, you got bodyguards, you eat good every day, you got a good paying job. I'm just saying now in our modern time, you got a good paying job, you driving a nice car, you got money in your pocket all the time. Think not that just because you got all of that, and you don't help your people, if you don't help your people to live, if you don't help your people to understand this truth, if you don't minister and edify your people with this truth to keep the commandments, if you don't go before the king and pray for your people in our time right now, he told her this. Don't think you're going to escape in the king's house more than all the Jews just because you got all this stuff. Verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to Jews from another place. Look what he told her. He was like, if you don't do it, I promise you, the Lord will raise up somebody else to do it. You afraid? Are you so into your comfort, luxury life, and you won't take a stand and teach this truth and edify your people and love your people and show your people love? If you don't do it, if you're afraid for people to know that you're a Hebrew Israelite, if you're afraid to let people know that you're a Jew, because at this point, she had to let the king know, King Ahasuerus, she had to let King Ahasuerus know that she was a Jew. What no more hiding. She had to let him know that she was a real Jew. He told her, if you don't do it, their enlargement and deliverance arise to Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. If you don't do it, the Lord will destroy you and your father's house. And look what he told her. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Now that's when he broke it down to her. For who knoweth whether thou come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Could it be that you were raised up for such a time as this? Could it be that the Lord called myself and other sisters out there for such a time as this, or other brothers for such a time as this? Could it be like the position that you're in? Could it be that you are in the position you are for such a time as this? For the Lord to use your life, to minister, to save souls, to win souls, because scripture says, he that winneth souls is wise. Wise souls win souls. Wise souls win souls. Could it be? So Esther had a lot on her. She had a lot to process in her spirit of her mind, the spirit of her mind. Because the Lord had to really show her that you could be the one. You are the one I'm raising up. People don't believe in you. They don't see no good in you. They're just talking about you. They have self-conceited, so they can't see nothing anyway. They're blind. They're blind. They on something else. We talked about the carnal mind last week on the broadcast. They on something else. They can't see. They're not going to see your gifts. Matter of fact, the Lord has hid your gifts for such a time as this. Matter of fact, the Lord, is not going to reveal who you really are to them because they carnal minded. They on something else, right? They not even deep where you are. The Lord can't even show them till the time come for you to arise to be in a certain place where you are. It got to do with your family or whomever you know or associated with, people on they don't know your spiritual gifts, your power, your destiny. This is the time to be crowned, and these times when we're finding out who we are as Hebrew Israelites, this is the time that the Lord is raising us up like he did Queen Hadassah. For such a time as this. We are coming into the kingdom for such a time as this. And then like Esther, Hadassah, had to process. Queen Hadassah had to process whether or not she going to take the risk to lose her life or trust the Lord to save her life. Because the scriptures say, he that saveth his life, he that seeks to save his life shall lose it. He that loses his life for the Christ's sake shall find it. So, this sister Hadassah had a lot to process. Her spirit had to be so in tune with the Most High. Because you're dealing with what you're dealing with. You're dealing with destiny. So when you're dealing with destiny, so people don't realize when you're into destiny, it's all coming from the Most High. You don't really know sometimes till you get in certain places like this is it. Some people know that something is going to transpire in their life, and you always have to know that it's bigger than what you think. Destiny is always bigger than what you think. Always. Bigger than the place you're in. Destiny is always bigger, and that'll give people hope when you think about that. Destiny is always more dynamic than where you are in your life. You may be sitting in a little place, a little apartment. You may be just, may not have like the next person have and things like that. But you have to remember that destiny is always bigger. Destiny takes on a whole nother realm in a person's life. Destiny takes on a whole another realm of the supernatural, of the spirit of the Lord. Like your life is being, I don't care where you at, what's going on, what you experience, your life is being governed by destiny. Hallelujah. Your life has been chosen for a great event, to put this word out here, to meet someone that will bring you into a place that the Most High call you to be. A lot of people, they look at you, they want to keep things from you, or they try to prevent you in certain positions, or, they try not to give you or be, let you be what, the Lord's called you, but they can't stop destiny. If you're crowned for destiny, see, Queen Esther was crowned for destiny. She had to be put in this position. All the other pageants or whatever that were trying to qualify for the king, to be the king's wife, no, they didn't have that destiny. They probably would want to get in there and, put the feet up and just sip wine all day, or just look at their nails, want to get the nails and the feet done all the time. That's probably what they wanted to do, right? But the Lord have a greater destiny for those that he called, and nobody can stop it. Always remember, nobody in this world can stop your destiny. The Lord will flip them up, turn them upside down, keep them out the way. The Lord just touch the king's heart, give you favor, bless you right where you are. Don't ever limit the Most High. Your life not over with yet. You still got life and you're breathing.